Absolutely, and that leads to things, a lot of discussions also on the facility side is whether you renovate like new or build new. And that becomes a tough question, especially when the renovate like new numbers are so high. 20 years ago, if you went renovate like new, the cost would probably be half of what it is today in today's dollars, because you wouldn't have to renovate so many different items. This way you're renovating so much, you're almost getting to the point where you're almost entirely replacing a building. And if you try and replace that building in kind, renovate like new, as opposed to building a new building, sometimes you do open up a whole bunch of can of worms you don't know. Mm-hmm. and you're not exactly sure what's going to happen. And they do put a lot of contingencies in these numbers to make sure you try and get a good number from it. I think I remember one of the last board meetings, they replaced a roof, and one of the roofs came in at almost half the cost associated with it, because there were contingencies built in, because the cost associated with the product at that particular point in time when they actually went for bond was much higher than it is today. That's because a barrel of oil back then was $150, and today it's in the $60 to $70 range. That cuts the cost in half based upon timing, based upon your materials that you're actually using. So it's very important to kind of get all these details done. I think the Board of Ed so far has done a pretty good job at doing that. There's some say on whether it should move faster or not. And I guess that's a big question. And I'm not sure how that's working at this point.
Well, that is one of the frustrating parts of government, of having everybody have their input and the time frame to get things done, planned for, put the information before the voters, and to move things ahead. I'd just like to remind our listeners that you're watching the Guilford Board of Education candidates that are vying for office for the Republican slots that are open this year's election. That's at the first Tuesday in November. We ask that you go to the polls, you make sure you do exercise your right to vote. Joining me is John Ireland again on my far right, who is newly running for the Board of Education here, but he's been in town and actively involved in things that he is talking about here with us. Linda Santacora, who is on the board as an incumbent, and Sue Renner, who is again joining as a newcomer looking for her first elected office here in Guilford, even though she's been around and educated here in Guilford. I'd like to take and change conversation a little bit to go back to some things that are near and dear, I think, to both Linda and Sue. You're both moms. John and I are both dads, but the mother perspective has a little different view than what us as dads do. Mm-hmm. You were very involved in PTO activities and have been. Could you shed some experience on how that has melded you and helped to meld your kids?
Certainly, certainly. Well, let me start by saying that it surprises me that there has not been a CPA on the Board of Education, and that's where my head is. But where my heart is with the education of our children. And since my kids started school, as when they were in nursery school, I found that what I really wanted to do with my time was be involved with their school experience. So I've done over the years everything from one year I was the co-chair of the community nursery school Little Folks Fair with 2 other women. And then last year I was involved with Project Graduation at Guilford High School, the all-night substance-free celebration that takes place after graduation to keep the kids safe and off the roads. I was on the steering committee with a group of about 8 for that. And everything in between over the years, from pounding nails on the float to setting out the books for the book fair. It's so important for the kids to see how involved their families are and to see how important education is to all of us.
Mm-hmm. Good, thanks.
Hi.
Linda.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I too have, very much enjoyed my activities as a PTO mom, classroom mom, and going on field trips and, helping out any way that I can with the turkey trot at A.W. Cox and, the art auction that we had last year that was very successful. In addition to PTA-related activities that dealt more with more global district issues, whether it was, promoting, improved curriculum or textbooks or world languages, or simply providing enrichment opportunities for children in Guilford through the Reflections Art Program and, what's it called? The wasn't Mind in Motion. What did we do? I forget what it was called.
Destination Imagination.
No, it wasn't Destination Imagination. It was our own one full day activity that we set up at Adams Middle School. It was a full day of enrichment activity where the kids could come in and choose activities for the day. And I'm sorry that I can't remember the name of it. I'll have to get back to you on that. But anyway.
Those are some really neat things. You get involved with your own kids, but then also to then reach out and what you can share with others.
Right, right. And I see serving on the Board of Ed as a very natural extension of that. Just another way, another venue for being able to serve the town in areas that are going to benefit our students. And I am excited to do that.
And one thing you've helped us out with, I know you possess a strength that I don't have, and that's being multilingual. And your multilingual capabilities and the importance of that and carrying it out has been wonderful.
Thank you.
I think just want to relate a little bit on what we're doing in the school system now as a result of.
Oh yeah, I mean I think we can very proudly say that we now offer Spanish from first grade all the way up through through high school. We did end up getting it in the middle schools and down to the elementary schools.
And that was one of the initiatives of the Board of Education that's taken place over a planning period of time that has been like 4 to 5 year process.
Our next step is to get it in kindergarten. I still want to see it in kindergarten. We'll
do that.
Step by step.
They have it in kindergarten. They call it Dora. Kids watch it all the time.
Yeah.
I've got 3 girls, and believe me,
but she stutters.
It's interesting because you mentioned a lot of these things that are activities in the town. I also think it's very important that the Board of Ed also provides not only information but tools and stuff for the parents, because education in school, you're only in school so many hours during the day, and it's those after school hours that are just as important to make sure the kids get educated. They learn things not only about math and science outside of school doing homework, but they also learn about social skills and things of that nature. And I think it's important that parents find the time to spend with their children. I know many a times I've looked a little silly playing pretty princess, but that happens on occasion, but that's what you expect with girls. But it's important because you get a lot of interaction with them, and they kind of transfer a lot of that to the school system. So one of the things I'd like to see, and I'm sure there might be some programs in place, but how do we reach out to those parents to give those parents the capability to help enrich and further enhance the education that's actually going on in town?
No, absolutely, and I think that's one of the strengths of having new people be involved and always having some turnover coming in is new ideas blossom, you take and discuss those things, and more can happen.
And I think we have a lot of things in place. I think that we don't really need to reinvent the wheel. I think that we need to look at the resources we have and what we already have in place and expand on them. I mean, I think the teachers do a fantastic job sending home newsletters to let parents know what's happening in school and what enrichment activities are available to them. And maybe that's not enough, the newsletter's not enough, using the listserv. And
I thought one of the greatest things was the Power School that come in. I mean, the technology that alerts the parents as to how the kids are doing, it goes, grade by grade. Teachers have to enter these grades anyway. Being able to enter them and then distribute them to the parents so the parents can see how well. And then start talking about things like, hey, I saw last week maybe you didn't do such a great job on that test. Why do you think that was? Did you have too much to do? Did we not study more? Or even doing more subtle things like, hey, when's your next Spanish test? Maybe I can help you out with that. That enhances kind of the enrichment in the learning process.
And while you're sitting there at the computer checking Power School, that's the opportunity too to shoot an email to the teacher and ask a question that you might have and then get your response back in short order, I find.
Yeah, as we found in our regular business lives, and communication is an important aspect of taking in both success as well as doing the right thing and moving ourselves forward. And I think that's one of the issues that the general voters always have is what's going on in the school system? How do I know that? The printed media has a different way of handling things now, and with the economy the way it is, people are leaning more toward the web and email and alerts and that type of thing. And we need to continually adapt. And that's where ideas that you folks have coming into it to assist that process and to take and use the technology, as you indicated.
What I found amazing is, I bet you ask anybody out there, were they ever taught how to write a letter? Like a formal letter. It has a header, it has a signature, it's got a salutation. Everybody's done that in school. How many people have actually learned how to write an email? What an email is supposed to say? How are you supposed to lead in? Should I reply to everybody or only a certain amount of people? And it's funny because even in today's day and age, as business people, we're actually continually being educated on that. Hopefully this translates to our kids, because our kids are going to use it a lot more than we did. And they're going to have new and different technologies, some of the things we don't even know about, that are actually going to come of age in the next 5 to 10 years that, as educators, we're going to make sure not only do they understand the technology, but also our teachers understand the technology and how to actually use it, and how to also, play well in those arenas, on the internet. It's a pretty scary place for some people.
I'd love to see technology serve a role to expand the school day in a way, in a sense, and education is not just taking place when they're in that building, but that it's a community activity that takes place even after school.